Christmas night. A time for joy, warmth, and family. But for these people, it became the last night they were ever seen alive. Every year, the world lowers its guard on Christmas. Doors stay unlocked longer. Voices grow softer. Trust comes easier. Snow hides footsteps. Laughter masks fear. And the sound of bells convinces us that everything is safe. What you're about to hear did not happen in a distant past, or in some forgotten place. These events unfolded in living rooms filled with lights. In kitchens that still smelled of food. In homes where the final sound recorded was not a scream, but a carol playing in the background. Investigators would later describe scenes that felt frozen in time. Half-open gifts. Chairs pushed back as if someone stood up in a hurry. Phones left charging. Food still warm. No signs of a struggle. No forced entry. No clear reason why anyone would leave. Families waited for footsteps that never returned. Neighbors noticed decorations still glowing days later. And police reports all shared the same detail. Christmas was supposed to end with goodbyes and embraces. Instead, it ended with silence. Tonight, we examine 3 real cases where celebration gave way to disappearance. 3 moments when comfort became danger. And 3 questions that still have no answers. Stay with me. Because the final story begins with a present that should never have been there. And once you hear what was found beneath the tree, Christmas will never sound the same again. Tonight, I'm sharing 3 true horror stories where Christmas turned deadly. These are not legends passed around in whispers. They are built from emergency calls, witness statements, and records left behind after everything went quiet. Each story begins the same way. With celebration. With lights. With people who believed they were safe because it was Christmas. Stay until the end. Because story number 1 remains unsolved. Investigators still argue about what really happened. Families still wait for answers. And what was found beneath the Christmas tree has never been explained, only locked away, documented, and avoided in official reports. As you listen, pay attention to the small details. The moments most people overlook. The sounds in the background. The timing. Because in cases like these, the danger didn't arrive loudly. It didn't break down doors. It didn't announce itself. It blended in. Before we begin, ask yourself this. If something felt wrong on Christmas night, would you dismiss it? Would you tell yourself it's just nerves? Or would you leave everything behind and walk out into the cold? By the end of this video, you may realize how little time these people had to decide. This is where the countdown begins. These aren't urban legends. They aren't stories shaped by rumor or time. They are police reports. Witness statements. Emergency calls recorded in the early hours of Christmas morning. Files stamped and archived. Photographs taken under harsh lights. Timelines reconstructed minute by minute. And every one of them happened on Christmas. The holiday didn't cause what you're about to hear. It simply created the conditions. A night when routines change. When streets empty earlier. When neighbors assume silence means sleep. When alarms are ignored, and unfamiliar sounds are explained away. Investigators would later say the same thing, again and again. Nothing felt urgent at first. As we move through these stories, listen carefully. Notice what repeats. A moment. An object. A decision that seems small until it's too late. Watch closely. Because there is a single detail connecting all 3 cases. Most viewers miss it the first time. And once you see it, you'll understand why none of these stories truly end. Story number 3 begins far from city lights. Far from neighbors. Far from help. A single-family home sat at the edge of a rural road, surrounded by trees that looked darker once the snow began to fall. On Christmas Eve, the storm came down steadily. Thick flakes. Heavy wind. The kind of weather that erases tracks almost as soon as they're made. Inside, dinner was ending. Plates were pushed aside. Glasses half full. A radio played quietly from the corner of the room, cycling through familiar holiday songs. Laughter faded into tired conversation. Nothing felt wrong yet. The family dog was the first to react. It lifted its head and stared down the hallway leading to the bedrooms. Its ears went back. A low sound came from its throat. Then barking. Not playful. Not excited. Focused. The hallway was empty. One of the adults stood up and checked. Lights on. Doors closed. Nothing out of place. The dog refused to follow them back to the table. Moments later, the power flickered. Just for a second. Lights dimmed. Came back on. No one panicked. Snowstorms did that. Then came the knock. 3 slow taps on the front door. Conversation stopped. Someone glanced at the clock. It was late. Too late for visitors. A coat was pulled on. The door was opened. No one was there. Only snow. Wind. And darkness stretching down the road. The door was shut again. Locked. They told themselves it was nothing. Someone passing by. A branch hitting the wood. That's when the footsteps began. Soft. Measured. Coming from upstairs. Everyone froze. The dog backed away, pressing itself against the wall. One of the adults whispered that it must be the house settling. Cold air shifting beams. But the steps continued. Moving from one end of the hallway to the other. Slowly. Someone went upstairs. Every bedroom door was closed. Including the spare room. The spare room door had not been opened in weeks. When they came back down, no one spoke. The Christmas tree lights flickered once. Then went out completely. The radio stopped. The house fell silent. No one slept that night. At first light, they searched the house again. That's when they found it. Something had changed. An interior door, one that had been locked from the inside, was standing open. Nothing appeared stolen. Nothing broken. No footprints inside the house. Outside, the snow was untouched. Police arrived later that morning. They documented the scene. Asked questions. Checked the locks. Searched the surrounding woods. They found nothing. No evidence of entry. No evidence of anyone leaving. The report would later classify the incident under a single word. Unexplained. The family never spent another Christmas in that house. And whoever, or whatever, came that night was never seen again. That was only the beginning. What you just heard was the mildest of the 3. A warning, more than a conclusion. Because in the next story, there is no quiet ending. No empty house left behind. If that story unsettled you, the next one is far worse. Before we continue, take a moment to notice something. The night. The timing. The way no one realized the danger until it was already inside the home. If you're still here, still listening, then you're willing to hear what happened next. Like this video if you're still watching. It tells me you're brave enough for what's next. Story number 2 begins on Christmas morning. Story number 2 unfolds in a place that looked exactly like Christmas was supposed to look. A quiet suburban street. Identical houses. Wreaths on every door. Lights carefully arranged along rooftops and fences. Snow rested evenly on lawns and sidewalks, untouched, smooth, almost decorative. It was early Christmas morning. Before sunrise. Before children woke. Before coffee brewed and wrapping paper filled the trash. Everything was still. The scream shattered that stillness. It came from inside one of the houses near the end of the street. A single scream. Short. High. Then nothing. At first, no one moved. People assumed it was a dream. Or a television left on. Or excitement spilling over too early. But when a neighbor looked outside, they noticed something wrong. The front door was wide open. Lights were on inside the house. The decorations were glowing. Music could still be heard faintly through the doorway. Police were called minutes later. When they entered the house, the cold hit them first. Not the kind from outside. But the kind that settles indoors when a door has been open too long. The smell came next. Pine from the tree. Fresh. Sharp. And beneath it, a heavier scent. Metallic. Unmistakable. The living room was untouched. Presents were stacked neatly beneath the tree. Stockings hung evenly across the fireplace. No broken furniture. No overturned chairs. The radio sat on the kitchen counter, still playing the same song on repeat. Officers would later note that the volume had not been adjusted. As if no one had tried to turn it down. Witnesses began to gather outside. But their statements didn't line up. One neighbor claimed they saw movement inside the house earlier that morning. Another insisted the lights were already on when they woke up. Someone else said they heard footsteps on the porch. None of them agreed on the time. And none of them could explain why there were no footprints in the snow. Not leading toward the house. Not leading away from it. The snow around the front door was smooth. Unbroken. Police searched every room. Except one. There was a room at the back of the house that investigators later refused to describe in detail. Its contents were never released. Its photographs never shown. Even the report summarized it with a single line. Condition inconsistent with the rest of the residents. As the investigation continued, something else began to trouble officers. Evidence was present. But it wasn't hidden. It was visible from the start. Under the Christmas tree, among the neatly wrapped gifts, was an object no one remembered placing there. It wasn't wrapped. It didn't have a tag. And it didn't belong to anyone in the house. Every family member denied bringing it. Neighbors denied seeing it before. It had been there the entire time. Waiting to be noticed. Before we go further, consider this. What do you think happened inside that house? Hold that thought. Read the comments later. Don't answer yet. Because the final conclusion was never shared publicly. The house was eventually cleaned. The door replaced. The decorations taken down. And by noon that day, Christmas morning ended before it truly began. Everything you've heard so far leads to this final story. The isolation. The timing. The details that didn't belong. They weren't separate events. They were warnings. In both cases, something arrived quietly. Something that didn't force its way in. Something that waited until it was welcomed by routine and trust. This one changes everything. Because unlike the others, there is no question about when it began. There is no uncertainty about where everyone was supposed to be. And there is no explanation for what appeared. This is story number 1. Real names have been withheld in this case. Not to protect the victims, but because several people connected to the investigation later asked to be removed from public records entirely. What remains are fragments, police audio, time stamps, and the last Christmas video ever recorded inside the house. The footage begins the way countless holiday recordings do. A living room lit by a tree. Wrapping paper scattered across the floor. Hands reaching in and out of the frame. You can hear laughter in the background. Overlapping voices. Someone off camera telling another person to wait their turn. The camera shakes slightly as it's set down. You can hear the sound of paper tearing. Slow. Deliberate. Layer by layer. Nothing feels urgent. About 3 minutes into the recording, something changes. A gift is placed beneath the tree. It doesn't arrive in anyone's hands. No one is seen carrying it. It is simply there between frames. Rectangular. Wrapped neatly. Plain paper. No ribbon. And no tag. Someone laughs and asks who it's for. Another voice responds, saying it must be for later. They assume it's a joke. One person picks it up. They turn it over, looking for a name. They check the corners. The bottom. Nothing. No handwriting. No markings. No familiar paper from any local store. The room grows quieter. In the police audio recorded later, an officer would say this was the moment everything slowed down. The person holding the gift asks again who brought it. No one answers. Eventually, they open it. What was inside should not exist. It wasn't purchased. No receipt could be traced. No store carried it. No manufacturer claimed it. Investigators attempted to lift fingerprints. There were none. Not smudged. Not partial. Nothing. The object itself was ordinary in shape, but wrong in context. It did not belong in that house. It did not belong to anyone there. And yet, it had been placed with care. At this point in the footage, the laughter does not return. The camera remains steady, but the voices change. Lower. Closer together. Someone suggests turning the camera off. Someone else says to leave it running. That's when the recording cuts. Abruptly. No fade. No final sound. Just silence. Investigators would later search the house. They found no signs of forced entry. No missing valuables. No evidence of anyone leaving in a hurry. But they did find something else. Something not mentioned in the initial reports. Years later, a single detail was released during a closed review. The object found inside the gift was not unique. It matched others. Identical in shape. Identical in condition. Appearing in different places. Different homes. Different years. Always on Christmas. Before this story ends, take a moment. Subscribe now. Because stories like this don't stay buried forever. There is one final detail. Every Christmas since that night, families connected to this case have reported the same thing. A new gift. No tag. No explanation. Placed beneath the tree after everyone is asleep. And every Christmas since, the same gift has appeared. 3 stories. 1 holiday. And a reminder that darkness doesn't take days off. Now, think about what you've heard. Which story scared you the most, and why? If you want more true horror that follows you into the night, subscribe. Because next time, it won't be Christmas.